state permits are valid and current, and the applicant is asking for an extension, what is it, 3 years, I think it was?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
One of the permits will expire during that time. What was one of the state permits? So I was just wondering,
Wetland permit?
is it, I think it was wetland.
Wetland in October.
Okay, so how would that be handled? I was just wondering for procedurally.
That would be just something that the applicant would have to keep current. Otherwise, the entire application wouldn't be valid. Well,
So how would
the
they keep
variance
it
wouldn't
current?
then be valid.
Are we talking about regional
I-
impact?
No, I just wanted to know if, moving forward,
Okay,
how that
yeah,
works.
I know what you're saying.
I think it's just their responsibility to keep those other permits that, we don't issue those permits, so it's not something that we would necessarily set any timeframes on. And their variance, I think, is subject to making sure that they have all those other permits, but, or the special exception, I'm sorry. And so as long as they've got those in hand, then, we don't have any issues.
Okay.
All right, so there's a risk of, if, I think I'm gonna recommend that we do these applications in order tonight. One, for the fact of I'm not sure of the conversation that's gonna come up on the Coughlin application. That's, any other comments, any recommendations overriding?
No, I think you're probably right.
So, all right, so we're gonna proceed as, in order. So for the first one, Richard and Elizabeth Dolan, applicants, owners, are seeking variances to demolish the existing non-conforming detached garage and build a new 32-foot by 24-foot detached garage up to 5 feet from the front property line, whereas section 4.3 of the zoning ordinance requires a 35-foot front setback, and to allow the second floor of the proposed garage to be built as a 768 square foot accessory dwelling unit, whereas section 5.2 of the zoning ordinance requires a maximum of 650 square feet, and that the dwelling unit be built within or attached to the single-family residence, and that there be at least one interior connecting door between the two units. A special exception is required under section 3.12, table A6 of the zoning ordinance to build an accessory dwelling unit in the agricultural zone. The lot is located at 356 Worthley Hill Road, which is map 42, lot 17, the agricultural zone. This was continued from the December 6, 2011 meeting. Good evening.
Good evening. My husband couldn't be here because he's working out of town.
Okay. All right, just a minute while I grab my, like I said, we have lots of papers in front of us here, so I'm gonna make sure I have the right stack.
And if you place the little sheet, if you fix the house on the house, it lays out.
So where we're at in your application is that we had heard from you in October, I believe,
Yes.
and we asked for some additional information. We left the public hearing open to receive that information, and I think it was in the range of you were still working on a septic plan, and we were talking about we would like to see the layout of the property, where, you know, what the possibilities were for that piece of property, because we asked, you know, is it possible to move the garage closer to the house? How is it related to the septic field? How is the access to the well? What's the slope? If there was drainage issues that was mentioned, proximity to the road, you know, where the property all lined up, easements, the whole thing. So you have come to us with,
With a diagram from the septic designer that shows the slope and the location of, you know, the existing house and where the new septic is. And the overlay shows how that wall was moved. The town person who does septics asked that that be changed, and it was, but it hasn't come back from the state yet, that drawing, so this copy came from the designer without that one change of that wall, which is now moved back. to where you see it on the overlay.
Okay, so the wall, oh, sorry.
The house is your
I see.
building.
Everyone else get an
Mhm.
overlay?
I did try to have a bedroom septic put in, but we couldn't because all that sloping land can't count towards your, land for the septic. Not because you couldn't
Anything more
fit
than
it.
3%.
Anything more than 33%. This is my son Jim and my daughter Heidi.
Okay,
Came with me. So that's why we had to go with the 3-bedroom septic. Technically, our existing house only has 2 bedrooms because the upstairs bedroom, the addition, doesn't have a closet in it. There's a closet outside in a hallway. So technically, that's not counted as a bedroom.
Is
So-
it used as a bedroom?
Well, I do sleep there.
It's a great room.
But, I mean, that's the way they do it, technically. That's what I
You're
understood.
taxed as a 3-bedroom.
I am
You are
taxed,
assessed as a 3-bedroom.
yes.
Would you explain to me again, the issue about why the wall couldn't go out even further? The retaining wall?
Well,
Because of the
this-
slope.
yeah, the slope. It's
Well,
very steep and wooded slope
I was
right
there this morning. I was at your, I was there a month ago and I was there this morning. And I understand that it's a steeping slope. But I also understand that you have already have quite a bit of fill there to fill up to where the wall presently is now located, which you've shown on this overlay. In order for you to have a 4-bedroom septic system, why could not that retaining wall have gone further down the slope and been filled in?
Well, the person who did this drawing,
Yeah.
who I didn't meet, I only met the guy who built the septic system, said that we can't count that land, even when we did push back into it with the wall.
I think they worry about it leaking out the wall instead of using the ground.
yes, could you, sir, can you say your name again?
James Dolan.
Thank you. So my question is similar in that, so you're trying to figure out how to get 4 bedrooms essentially on this piece of property and at least 1 kitchen. So is there gonna be a kitchen unit in the attached?
Well, I'd like to.
Dwelling unit.
Ideally, I would like to have like what you'd call like an in-law apartment,
Right,
a little
I
place.
understand. So does that kitchen then also have to be planned for in the septic? So you essentially have 2 kitchens, 4 bedrooms.
But everybody that I've spoken with, wait a second, everybody that I've spoken with says that I can have endless bathrooms and kitchens. Endless. I can put 16 bathrooms in my house. I just can't put another bedroom. That's the way the law is. I understand that, you're thinking about use and everything, but that's the way it is. I can have more, and I'm not going to expand my people. I'm gonna have the same number of people using the facilities when I'm done as I do now.
So Brian, I think you gave us a new sheet. What was the most recent sheet here? It says, I gotta find it. That talked about that the kitchens are worth 1.5, essentially 1.5 bedrooms.
I remember.
That was an email, I think, that had come from the Department of Public Works.
Right.
Oh, I think it was on one of these sheets as well. Because it's,
but Billy Preston is the person who put the septic in for us. And he spoke with that person from Goffstown,
Mike Yergo.
Mike, and they had a conversation about that, and
It's on page one, actually. at the
I
bottom of
guess
page
what it is the town could pass such an ordinance, but it hasn't. That's not what's the law is.
Can you just give me a minute, please?
What is the size of this?
Roger? Kevin?
Just a
Are we
minute.
still talking over 700 square feet of an accessory building, as you're,
32 by 24, I could put that up.
it was an easy question to ask.
768, but not all that'll be usable.
32 by what?
24,
24.
right here.
Yeah, it's on that little overlay. And that red line, that indicates where the 6-foot setback from the front right corner of the garage is based on existing lot line pins, like all along that, all along this one.
So we're
On the
actually
black
moving
one.
it further away from the road. as it
Correct.
is now.
Correct.
Right.
So I believe Ms. Hoon's question was essentially, so your 24 by 32 translate into fully livable space. You're just mentioning something about not all of it's usable. Go ahead.
That's the
Correct.
foundation, but upstairs, what would be a living part wouldn't be, the full, because you'd have
Stairs.
and the slopes of the roof.
Do you know how it's calculated? You know how the town calculates this?
I'm not sure on that. Probably by bedroom size or whatever room size it's built.
Is it going to still be used as any part of it as a garage?
Yes,
You'll still have is there 1 or 2 car garage underneath?
it'll be a 2-car garage underneath, with a little area in the back, about 8 feet in the back, will have the staircase going upstairs, and a little workroom under it, and maybe utilities, whatever you need.
Okay, we got 3 lines of questions going on here right now, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
try close them one out at a time here. So Ms. Hoon's question was, how big is the property? In the application, you say it's 768 square foot will be the second floor of the proposed garage be built as a 768 square foot accessory dwelling unit. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes.
Brian, do we know how it's counted against the 650 square foot requirement that's in the zoning ordinance? Is it simply the outer dimensions of the walls that describe what the 650 square feet is, or is it some other method?
Well, if they are able to provide data that shows that their unit is smaller than that, then, we can go off of that. What they've provided me was the outer dimensions, so that's kinda what we went off of. Obviously, if the roof slopes in and the floor ends up being, 4 or 5 feet in from where the outer dimension is, then, that'll affect the square footage.
Are you aware of any obvious deductions, staircases, internal staircases?
I would venture to just say that square footage would count into it as part of the unit.
The footprint, that's
That's
by
planning
the
board.
footprint.
Yeah. Okay, so then, does that answer your question?
It does. I thought it was over the 650 square foot
It
from the
is.
last time, so.
The other line of question we had was, so again, going back, you're trying to fit essentially 4 bedrooms and 2 kitchens on this piece of property. Can you build a septic? If the town assesses it at that, it comes in and says you have 4 bedrooms, if you build that accessory dwelling unit and a kitchen in it, are they gonna assess you as 4 bedrooms and 2 kitchens and require you to have a septic that meets that?
Well, I don't know.
We could leave the closet out of the new addition, so it would be just a great room.
Cause,
I think the town wouldn't allow it unless a variance is granted. That's the
Right.
reason they're here.
well, I'm not sure that was part of the variance request. The whole application is, at this point, was essentially, the discussion is that the size of the septic would be meeting it, is how I understood it. at least there wasn't a specific reference in the variance request that says we can't build a septic to the size. And just a minute, in the special exception criteria, it specifically talks to septic. You know, that you need, that's one of the 5 or 6 criteria that says, is the size appropriate for the use? Are the facilities in place, septic, water? So it's a big deal. So if you start saying, I'm gonna have a lot of bedrooms and a couple of kitchens, and the property can't sustain it with a septic, it's a big hurdle to meet. And you're gonna have to describe how forever you're gonna allow this to happen.
Not forever, because we're just asking for it, for my daughter who has cystic fibrosis.
I'm gonna argue that's not what you did.
We're not asking it for forever. Yes, we talked about this the last time.
They did mention that before. But she also said that the daughter has maintained 95% health at this point in time.
90%, yep.
And one of the things also is that if we're going by the handicap, unless it's used for once the daughter is no longer there, what becomes of the property, because the variances are then null and void, and we are stuck with that building there.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's, the construction doesn't go away if your daughter doesn't live there. Or in fact, the last time you spoke, you said, well, if the daughter doesn't live there, maybe the son might.
Well,
Well,
that was before I knew that I couldn't do the larger septic.
okay, so then,
So I still would, like right now, we don't have enough room in our garage to put cars, so we would still use the room upstairs for stuff. You know, we have, our house that we have is small. So, it's not like we couldn't have the room just as a room.
I just want to clarify something. I'm not sure if you know this, but I believe the septic system has been already built. Is that true? Your septic
Yes.
system has already been built?
They
It's
did,
in.
it's
there.
in.
Yeah, I just wanted
okay,
to clarify.
and it's for
that.
3 bedrooms and a
Yes,
kitchen.
yes.
I believe
Vivian?
Sue, it was, I think the first question is it allowed to put 2 domains on one piece of property? That's the question we have to answer, and that's what, essentially what they're showing me right here.
Right.
They're not showing me an accessory building, they're not showing me an in-law apartment, they're showing me 2 homes on one lot.
And that's what they're trying to get a variance request to. They're trying to say that this is an accessory dwelling unit, although it's too big, it's not attached. They're trying to fit it into that wedge.
Accessory means
Right.
attached,
The-
and you.
Yep.
Right.
And they're trying to get a variance to say it doesn't have to be attached.
Well, right
So
at
that's
the
one of the
moment,
variances that they're asking.
our garage is not attached
The
right
reason why
now.
we don't want it attached, that's another topic, is
Yeah.
because the way the roof of the house is now, if you had
Yeah.
put that building on that side of the house, which would be the only place it could go, it would, all the snow and rain would go, it'd be trapped, it would have nowhere to go.
And the house, the original house, it was just one of those camps, you know, that was up there. And it's built on a block foundation with piles, I'm not sure what that means. And that's the entrance to the crawl space, right over on that side, which is where,
Our septic and water is,
yeah, and access to under the kitchen for any issues that you have there.
Just speak one at a time, or else I can't
Okay.
take the minutes.
Oh,
So, yeah, one at a time. Gail does a great job taking minutes, by the way. if you've read her
I'm
minutes.
sure it's
So,
tough.
Okay,
Was there any consideration to putting the septic in the back of the house?
well radius.
Yeah,
It's the only place we can put it on the property is where it is now.
because of that, it has to be
See that circle in
75.
the print? It's 75-foot well radius.
One at a time, please.
Yeah, and our neighbors' septic and well are all right here too. We're in close proximity to another home. I think their well is right about here, so I mean, we'd have to consider their well too. And we only own that little block, which is thick woods and steeply sloped.
okay. So what we're gonna do is you've got 3 variances and a special request, a special exception to meet, to get this done. Before, because how we're gonna solve this is walk through them one at a time. And we're gonna talk about the differences in each one of them. But before we do that, you made the claim that you said all along that this would only be for your daughter who has cystic fibrosis. And I'm gonna tell you, that's not what was said.
I misspoke. I said, before I knew that my daughter, that I could only get the 3 bedroom septic. I didn't know that we couldn't count all the land. I mean, I learn as I go with these building projects. But that's what my goal is, to have a place for Heidi. That's the only thing I care about.
So between the first meeting and the second meeting, it was asked, I would provide a reference to what qualified, what allowed the zoning board of adjustment to vary the rules for a variance. And it's an RSA reference. I think it was provided to the applicant? It's made part of our minutes, that it's RSA 674:33 V. I'm gonna read it for the ZBA, because I think the first decision we need to make is, do we need to use this? Do we want to use this? It says, and it's on page 203 of the staff review. Allows the ZBA to grant a variance without finding hardship when reasonable accommodations are necessary to allow a person or persons with a recognized physical disability to reside in or regularly use the premises provided, use the premises, provided that A, any variance granted under this paragraph shall be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. B, in granting any variance pursuant to this paragraph, the zoning board of adjustment may provide in a finding included in the variance that the variance shall survive only so long as that particular person has a continuing need to use the premises. So that's our allowance. A question I asked in the first discussion of this is, does your daughter's condition, is it considered a physical disability by a recognized organization?
Yes.
At the condition she is at.
I believe it can be. Cystic fibrosis is considered one of the orphan diseases. The life expectancy is 30 years. Things can go downhill very rapidly.
I know I'm sympathetic. I feel for it. The question is, you talk about may. She may use it.
No, she will use it if I have it. But she may get sicker. I don't want her to. I'm hoping she doesn't.
Okay.
People do. I mean,
If
the
you're
probability
just-
is that she will if they don't come up with some cure for these bugs that are in her lungs and also for CF, but you never know. I've got my fingers crossed.
How is a person with cystic fibrosis going to walk upstairs to get to the top floor apartment building?
So long as she can walk, it's good for her to go up those stairs. I just heard a woman at the CF dinner that they have every year in New Hampshire for parents and people with CF. She had 40% lung function, and she started jogging. She was in the hospital for weeks at a time, and when she first started jogging, she couldn't make it from that door to that door, and she'd be coughing and everything. She got up to running, those, 5K, and even has done a half a marathon. And that kept her out of the hospital. So long as she's able to move, it's good for her to move. It's good for her to go upstairs. We realized that Heidi when she came back, she went to UK, University of Connecticut, and there was a lot of walking, and before that she was in sports. And then when she came home and she wasn't doing those sports, she started to get sicker, and we realized how important just staying active is. It's the movement. Part of the treatment of CF is pounding on the lungs, and exercise has a similar effect of moving stuff, because they don't have the ciliated elevator like we do because of the mucus in their lungs. So that exercise pushes things out. And then this guy can carry her right up there if she's so sick she can't do it. We would do that, but I mean, that's not a big deal. Her dad's a big guy. Jim's a big guy. We'll get her up there if we need to, but we want her to walk up if she can.
Well, I'm concerned about the layout of this particular building, and I am concerned that the proximity of the building is not attached to your home. And I grant you that the foundation to the garage you're looking at utilizing. But in our ordinances, accessory dwelling units should be attached to the home, should have a doorway that connects from the home to the building. And I guess my question to you is, why have you not considered attaching it to your home to meet the variance, to meet the accessory use ordinances?
Well,
Can you,
I
I
think
don't
They
actually,
already
I-
just a minute.
Huh?
They already explained that.
Because of the way the roofs are.
the
I- just-
roof,
just a
the
minute, just a minute,
underneath,
just a minute,
the
just-
foundation. it
Just a
could-
minute,
oh,
just a
sorry.
minute. Actually, I'm not gonna let her answer that yet, because I'm gonna try solve this
Okay.
question of whether or not we wanna allow this application to
Okay.
modify our variance request.
Can I ask
Yes.
a question? I'm familiar with cystic fibrosis, because a little boy that was in my childcare has cystic fibrosis. Now, I know how badly it can get. You said your daughter's not there yet, which is very, very fortunate. But if it gets as bad as it can get, why would you want her that distance from your house? Why would, if she can take care of herself now, and she's able to live on her own, why would you say that the accessory dwelling unit separate from the building is necessary? And if she were to become that sickly from the cystic fibrosis, it would be beneficial, and you have stairs in your current home, is that correct?
Not that I
Going
use.
to
Just to the master bedroom. There's nothing else up there.
But she would be closer to you for the help and the assistance that she would need if she got that sick.
She wants to answer that.
As an adult, it's nice to take care of yourself if you can.
And I'm on her case all the time. It's very hard to live with someone who you love that is sick. And she has to make her own choices about every day, a lot of decisions about her medication. And I'm her mother. I insist on everything being done that can be done. I mean, it's hard. It's a lot of tension. But I am there. I do help. It's really about being independent. And that's what we want. We need the space. But, I mean, proximity. This is not a distance. This is a few feet from my house. This isn't like a carriage house down at the end of the lane. This is, what is it?
17 feet away. We can
17
manage
feet.
Anyone else have any questions regarding
I
this?
just feel very uncomfortable with the type of questions that are being answered, or that are being questioned of this family. I feel like we're delving into personal information that we shouldn't be. I don't think we need to go there.
I'm gonna allow it only for the fact that if we allow them to use the physical disability, well, we need to decide, do we want to use the physical disability application in the RSA to hear these variances? And I guess we need to understand some basic level of health status. Is it considered a disability? Maybe it's easier when someone has a physical disability, they're carrying a handicap placard, right? That's an easier one, but when it's going to someone's health that it's not obvious, it may be harder. I know it's harder for me, because this could be a long-term issue or a long-term variance that's granted, or if it's granted without this decision, it's forever, right? So if we did not use this physical disability reference, we would be looking at a variance and a special exception that will always allow you to have this accessory dwelling unit on this piece of property, and it may not have enough square footage to use for a septic, and it gets out of control, and that it's larger than the septic can handle. So, I mean, it's a concern that the board has. Vivian?
I don't want to sound cold or anything, but if it's a physical disability she has, and it's granted, then we have to have some backup to show why we did it. I mean, is there a doctor's, diagnosis? If we're gonna say, yeah, it's ADA because of, she has a disability, fine, but we have nothing to say, oh, yeah, we got all the paperwork that says she is. So I'm
Well,
just
we can easily
concerned
get
about
that.
that.
Right, we can. I should have thought of that. I didn't. We can. The doctor
that's
can
my
email it
question,
to you tomorrow, I'm sure that her doctors would write that.
And that's
letter.
why I asked at the beginning, is it considered by a licensed or some board that it's a physical disability? Because I know, I just looked basically at the Social Security Administration in them determining whether or not it's a disability, it has to meet specific, there's 3 different criterias, and one of them's, health of the person, other one's, another condition, another one's weight and respiratory capacity, which you've spoken to. So they come down to, and it's very fine detail on determining whether it's considered disability or it's not.
Well,
So,
I can tell you 2 things that I know. When she went away to University of Connecticut, we did get a letter from the doctor, because I wanted her to have access to the nurse, and she was in a special building there. And just with that letter, they accepted that. The other thing is that children who have a diagnosis of cystic fibrosis, if their parents don't have adequate finances, they automatically get Medicaid. So I think that it is considered to be a life-threatening, serious disability.
okay.
Some people, there are people who, like any disease, some people get a milder form of it. Some people, there's different genes that can cause it, but Heidi has the most common ones in the United States, and it's a severe illness.
Okay.
We've just been lucky.
Anyone else on the board have any questions regarding this specific aspect of the physical disability? Well then, I'm gonna ask the board, and Vivian, you won't be voting on this, for any motions or consideration, on how we want to process this application, whether or not we want to use this RSA 674:33V, which is 5, in reviewing the variances.
I would suggest that if we're going to consider it as part of the variance, that we should have something from the doctor.
I agree.
In order to cover ourselves, it's probably a
Need some
good idea.
backup.
We have something in writing saying that this is a physical, disability and or handicap, that will clearly allow us to apply the RSA.
Rather than asking them to come back again, couldn't we discuss whether these other things would be approved, and then
Could.
that particular one could be a condition of approval? That they would have to, if you're gonna go that route, that they would have to meet that requirement as far as a condition of approval.
Well, if it's a physical disability, we could waive certain, elements of the variance, and the fact of the hardship, where that is the hardship criteria, and we can meet a lot of the hurdles easily. We can stipulate the time it's good for. Whereas right now, the way it's being asked for is that it's a permanent variance, a permanent special exception. So they're kind of hard to
Yeah.
do them at the same time. Well, what if we did it this way? What if we, as a board, we could make the determination on our own that we believe it is a physical disability? And that,
Okay.
or that we want to process it as a physical disability without having proof in our hands. I know we've done it once before where someone had a physical disability, but we never asked to see their paperwork or anything like that. We said, okay, you have physical disability, and we went with it. But that's my thought.
I have a concern which has to do with the septic system. And it has to do with whether or not you can vary putting a 4-bedroom, connecting a 4-bedroom property into a 3-bedroom septic tank. And I don't know the answer to that question, and it's very concerning.
You're right. I think we can,
Take that in step.
I think that can be part of any finding that we had, that, something like, they can only have 3 bedrooms, period, on the property, that if they create an accessory dwelling with a bedroom, that bedroom that doesn't have a closet or whatever is no longer a bedroom, they can't use it. But I don't know if we can do stuff like that,
And
conditions
who's
like
gonna
that.
monitor that?
Yeah,
That's it.
so,
I wish
Well,
Mike Yergo
well,
was here.
only,
How are you gonna enforce
only,
it? How are you gonna
the
enforce
three
it?
bedrooms that are being used in the house, only 2 of them will be used if she's outside. There's only the 2 kids and my husband and me. There's not another person coming into the play here.
So if you look at specifically the drawback, so what if they did have 4 bedrooms in use? Does it fill up the septic faster? Do they create their own problem? Does it create an environmental problem? Does it, what's the negative if they, for a period of time, went above what was allowed or what we allowed?
Maybe Megan could answer some of those questions.
Well, the
Yeah,
sewer
yeah.
commission is meeting on January 17th this month, and Mike Yergo is part of DPW and attends all the meetings. I had asked Megan if she had spoken to Mike because he was on vacation last week, and she hadn't spoken any further with him about some of these issues, which I'm sorry, that, it was just bad
I talked to
holiday
Mike this
timing.
morning. I talked to Mike this morning.
Okay, so do we want to hear from Megan, who's here, just for a few minutes? All right, ma'am, we're gonna, if we can have,
Oh, they can stay there, I'll stop for
Well,
later.
Megan's not the engineer, I mean, she's not with the sewer department part of DPW. It's Mike Walton and Mike Yergo. I'm sure she's knowledgeable on things, but I don't know if she's really the go-to person.
I'll ask, are you able to answer any of these questions at a basic level?
In a general level, but I'm not a licensed septic
Okay.
designer, so that's really who you need, someone to answer the questions. I had spoken to Mike Yergo, before he left for, Christmas break, just quickly, when the plan came through for review, the proposed design that was just built. And, we were aware that there were potential proposed changes, and Mike had just said, he can approve it as a 3-bedroom because that's what's explained on the plans, that it's for a 3-bedroom. But he said, knowing that it may potentially be 4 bedrooms with the extra kitchen, he was explaining to me that it wasn't an even swap, meaning, if you remove a closet from the house, and you only have 3 people now, 4 people, but 3 bedrooms now and 3 later, because of the kitchen, the additional kitchen, that's where the numbers are not equal. So even if you go 3 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms, you have an additional kitchen, and so the gallons per day is more. So that's why you need a larger septic system. Because I'm not a septic designer, I don't know what the long-term results would be, except that you're overtaxing, a system that is not meant to handle that. Could it mean you have to pump it more often, possibly? That stuff I don't know, but that could be one of the things that needs to be done. And it does become, I think it would become a burden on them to deal with that problem, but if it's not handled by them properly, it could become an environmental problem.
Okay.
So I mean, to me, those are the potential
Right.
7, 8,
negatives,
9
but
tells it
I
all.
agree that,
Of
you know,
staff review, 7,
I
8,
wish
9
I knew
tells
this
it
was
all.
on tonight, cause I would've spoken to Mike again today cause he had a conversation with the septic designer, but it was when he was literally like heading out the door, and I didn't find out what his discussion was, so
Okay.
I don't know a lot about that.
Just a
Heidi
minute.
uses the kitchen now.
Just a minute. So Megan has spoken. Any thoughts, questions?
My thinking is to continue till we find out, now that we know that now we know that we've gotten past seeing the septic design. We've gotten past, now we know that we have a 3-bedroom septic system that has already been installed. Now we come to the issue of 3 versus 4 bedrooms, more kitchens. I think we need clarity on whether or not you can legally attach a 4-bedroom to a 3-bedroom septic system.
The staff review, 7, 8, 9, answers it all.
Right.
Exactly what they need for, I mean, there's no question, it tells you right there.
That's to be within
And that's what he told me.
zoning and planning.
But it's the septic design, that's exactly what Mike told me. It has 3 bedrooms and a kitchen only, but if you're going to put another kitchen, it's 1.5 bedrooms, so whether they eliminate a bedroom or not, they're still gonna have 3 bedrooms
Right.
and a half. The kitchen.
Whose requirements are those, the towns or the state?
Hmm?
Whose requirements are those, the towns or the state?
Well, it depends what size, you can ask for a 4-bedroom system if you want to.
I did.
Okay, and if it can't be done, then they're gonna go to what
But
can be done.
Who's, where it says here, required septic design size for a kitchen is equal to the size required for 1.5 bedrooms.
That was just data that had come from Mike Yurgo when I spoke to him.
I'll be a licensed plumber in about 4 months here, and in the state of Hampshire, you can have a kitchen is not considered into the septic design. They're based on people load of the house, which is why they're based on bedrooms. You could have 50, you could fill that garage with kitchens and it wouldn't add any load to the septic system, on the basis that that person that lives there can only use one sink at a time.
So I hear what you're saying. Our staff review says something different. So it
Right.
says, item 8 says required septic design size for a kitchen is equal to the size required for 1.5 bedrooms.
But Brian, you just said you got this from,
From speaking to Mike Yurgo, I mean, that's what
so
I had.
could we,
gleaned
and
from
he's
our
not a
discussion.
licensed septic designer.
Yes, he is.
He is, okay. Cause I'd like some data behind this.
Yes. So
not just
yours is a
somebody
very
saying
good question.
something.
Is it a Goffstown requirement or is it a state? If it's a
Right.
Goffstown one, we may have more flexibility in what we're doing. If it's a state, we may not have that
It's a state
flexibility.
requirement, when you have an approval for a construction, the state is the one that gives you the approval for construction, not the town. It'll
Yeah.
go to the town for review, and then then it's approval for renewal after that. So the state has all the say on the septic.
But
What
the
if we
town-
don't have a
This
kitchen?
town also approves septics.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, they do, it's stamped right here.
They do.
The,
And
the
they-
town,
They approved mine a
well,
couple
maybe
years
because you
ago.
got a certified one, septic?
The town has to approve all septic system.
The town,
Right, but
And the state does too.
The state gives
Both,
the
and this
final
is
approval.
stamped,
Yeah,
this
the
is
town-
stamped by both the state
Right.
and the town.
Yeah, usually
Right.
when they put in a septic system, the building inspector or something goes in and sees the,
Yeah.
or like Mike Yurgo would go in and see that it's done the way it's supposed to be done. But then the state gives their last approval.
There's a state inspector. I know a state inspector came to look at it.
I think the town just looks at the plan itself and
No, they
stamps
go
it,
in-
I don't think they go look at
The
it.
building inspector or the septic guy, whatever,
Mhm.
usually goes in just to see if it's being done the way it's
Oh.
supposed to be done, constructed. Then the state comes in and sees that it has been done the way it's supposed to be done.
So obviously, we're not the expert in totality of how this is done.
Now,
So-
can I,
Yes.
Brian, do you know if, when the town accepts a design and grants a permit for a septic system, the criteria that they use, does the town have its own, or do they go by what the state requires?
The town could be more restrictive, but I don't know if this town is.
I don't know what
That's
the
what we need
re-
to answer.
Can't be less
regulations are.
lenient, but they
It
have
could
to,
be
they
more
They can
can't
be
be
more
less lenient.
restricted, but they can't be less.
They can't be less than the state, but they can be more.
Okay, so we've got,
So that's all we need, is that data. Does the town have their own criteria? Is it more restrictive? You know, who makes the determination that kitchens count? I'd like to know all of that.
and that's, you would need to know that whether or not we use the physical disability variance criteria, or if we did it as a normal all
You know,
variance.
Steve Crean might be a person to ask to come to the meeting next month, because he is the chairman of the sewer commission, but he is also the Bedford sewer department, head of the Bedford sewer department. So he is not only knowledgeable from DPW and town aspects, because he is the DPW town person in Bedford, but he's also our sewer commissioner for the Goffstown Sewer Commission. He's the chairman of that. And whether he comes to the meeting, or perhaps he could answer the questions for us, but I would think he would be a go-to guy. I mean, he knows everybody at the state and local levels.
Whoever stamped this plan,
Yeah, I think
Okay.
the town provided the expert.
Well,
I don't know if I'm gonna
he
be
is in the
saying,
town.
I'm not gonna say who the town expert is to
Okay.
bring.
When I
I'd say
worked for the
town
building
expert.
department, this is how it went. You had to have a pit test or whatever first, and then
Test
it was
pit, right.
approved. You get back to the building department, and now it must be the septic guy, that it's been approved for construction. The whole plan goes to the state. The state sends you a paper saying it's approved for construction. Here's the plans. So So then the building inspector, or whoever's in charge, goes and makes sure that it's done the way it's supposed to be done, with the black paper and all this stuff. Then after it's all constructed, and before it's buried, the state is informed, and then it's approved for,
And that's what they
operation.
did for a 3-bedroom home.
right.
Right.
So now we need further information about if they add another bedroom and a kitchen, is
kitchen.
this septic
It says it
system
right here.
adequate?
Right, so the
Yeah.
question is, whose rule is that? Is that a Goffstown levied rule? The applicant has actually said, he doesn't recall that being a requirement regarding kitchens. So is a kitchen an add-on, is a
Oh,
kitchen a
I
Goffstown
see.
rule versus a state rule?
I don't know.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's what I think the Goffstown expert would be able to tell us, is whose rules are these? Which ones could we potentially waive? What are the impacts if we waive them? Under whatever criteria we wanna use here, under the variance. Okay,
Can I ask if we could back up just for a second? And going back to the handicap issue,
yes.
one of the things that bothers me is that when Heidi would no longer live at the property, that variance is no longer valid.
Correct.
And so are they sure that they want to go ahead with that as a consideration? Because if Heidi were to move out or something, then they would be responsible to do something with that property, or they could be held accountable to do something with that property, and do they want that responsibility?
So I think our discussion was trying to answer the question on either side, whether it was to go on this road or it was full, but, yeah, I guess that's up to you is, do you know by using this, if you were to use this process that we classified as a physical disability, we make a special, process to grant a variance and special exception, when she's not living there, now or in the future, that you cannot use that accessory dwelling unit as an accessory dwelling unit.
Right.
Could they be required to pull it, to turn it down, to tear it
And
down?
it could be a condition is that you not make an accessory dwelling unit out of it. It could be.
You mean tear down the room, take off the top of the building?
Or just make it so that it's not an accessory dwelling unit anymore.
Right, take
Whether
out the
it's-
kitchen.
Well, take out the kitchen, take out the bathroom, whatever it takes to make it. So, I mean, is that something that you've contemplated? Is that acceptable?
That's acceptable. I don't think I would legally have to take out the bathroom. I mean, I think you can have a bathroom in your garage legally,
Okay.
even in a 3-person home. I don't think I'm restricted. That's what we have to find out, who's telling you
And
these
that could be,
rules.
the septic is probably linchpin in all of this, but you're,
No, my concern is that the variance would be voided when Heidi leaves the property.
So no
So
one
that
would use
means-
it.
That means that the setbacks that you are creating with this application could be voided, and the property's there.
I think it's only the variance for the use as a handicap.
I think we can split up the
Property.
variances.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Right. I mean, we have a garage sitting there
Right,
right now.
Right.
An old one. And we're actually not going to use that foundation because it wasn't done
Too
well.
close to the road, we're moving it a little.
But,
Right.
but in order for you to use the garage and use the setbacks that exist now, those setbacks are grandfathered. The minute that you go beyond your perimeter and you expand the garage foundation, you are now, it's now a new lot. And now you're in violation of the setbacks. So there are a lot of things that are going on with this other than just
Right,
adding a building and putting a bathroom in.
right, I
Hey,
understand.
Yeah, you made a change, you would have to come back to us. So you have, what complicates it all is you got 3 variances and a special exception request. A lot of moving parts, right? So I was
Right.
trying to walk through these specific issues. The biggest hurdles to get over is not how close you are to the road. That comes before us all the time. We see that all the time. The accessory dwelling units we see, what's different about this one, that it's not attached. So that special exception we've done a number of times, but because it's not attached, which is one of your variance criteria, and that it's larger than 650 square feet, are the 2 variance pieces that are making it harder for the board. So, and it comes to, as Joanne just said, it's the use. Traditionally, in the zoning world, use variances and area variances used to be different. It's all one variance now. But use changes, how you use your property tends to be the most controversial, because it creates a lasting change, it creates, just changes neighborhoods, you know, it does a lot of things when you change the use of things, tends to. So, that's why we're questioning, why are you using it? Why are you using it for this purpose? Why is it so big, right? The size of the use and the use itself.
The reason it's so big, but is, the 20-foot garage, my people say that is just unusable. My neighbor says that, oh no, you've gotta go 24, this is, 20 feet is just.
To have an operational two-car garage.
Right, it's the real, that why we wanna go wider. Then the reason we wanna go longer is because of the staircase. Having, you know, you have to have room for the staircase, which I think is safer inside, because it is shady there, and, yeah, you know, and ice and everything. So I looked at a lot of those garage plans online, and I saw one with that nice indoor. I mean, those are the reasons that that we want it to be. The wider is for the garage part, the longer is for the staircase up.
Okay. So with us wanting to seek more information regarding septic, do we still want to ask our other questions regarding location, size, or do we want to wait?
I have one question I want to ask. If at some time your daughter was unable to walk up the stairs, were you then possibly thinking of having your son live there and she move inside the house?
No,
No?
but you know what,
Okay.
that would be way down the road. As I said, that woman with 40% lung function was learned to jog, but hopefully it's way down the road, but you can get a lift for the
There's one right in
stairs.
front of this building.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, that's
Okay.
not,
I
I thought
wanted-
of getting a lift where my dad was living, you know, I mean, that's something you
Yeah,
can
oh, yeah.
do.
Yeah, okay,
So I don't think that's something that would prevent her from living there.
okay.
Okay, any other questions of the applicant at this time? Do you have any
Shoot,
questions?
no, but I thought maybe we should get all the questions in order for when they come back. I mean, not
Right.
start all over again.
Right,
we
if there-
have
if there's any
right
questions.
now, To get it all out, so they can come back with the answers.
Sure, do you have any questions?
We need documentation of the.
What would you like a letter from my doctor explaining, or?
I think that there will be this, in the CF
Doctors will do
team, there's
whatever
the
I
social worker, there's a whole team of people, and they'll have dealt with this kind of thing, and they'll be able to give you a definition of it as I'm sure,
I'll call them tomorrow.
yeah,
Okay,
of whether it's, what is it,
And if they have any
Disability.
questions, they certainly can call Brian Rose.
Right, Rose,
okay.
and then we'll want the, I think then we'll want, I guess we're gonna come up with a motion eventually, right? But, someone from the town to speak to the septic.
We'll just have to empty
Rules.
it out more often, that's all.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, right? So, I mean, if it's just a simple negative consequence only for the landowner themselves, I mean, there's possibly ways to work around it, but,
Well, Megan
that's
said
something
that
that's-
if it's not maintained,
Empty it out more
will create
often.
an environmental hazard, so.
yep,
you know,
Well-
who's gonna monitor?
I wanna
But if
hear it.
it's not maintained, it's going to back up into their house, so.
My husband's father owned a septic company, and he doesn't believe you can only do it every 5 years. It's gotta be soon.
No.
I mean, that's just personal, I mean.
Joanne, any additional questions for the applicants tonight
No.
on any of the variance aspects, the special
No, I don't
exception
think so.
aspects? Ed?
I don't have anything right now, no.
Kathy?
No, not yet. I really would like to see what the answers are gonna be, that pertain to the septic system and
Yeah.
size.
Okay.
I have some other smaller ones, but I think that I'm all set right now.
Okay, and you said nothing else at this time. All right, so I'm gonna make a motion
This is extra.
that we're gonna continue this application to the February 7th meeting,
Yeah.
2012. Two things. One is that we're gonna ask the applicant to provide information regarding physical disability of the daughter. And then for the town to provide information or a person to answer questions regarding septic on this application. Whether it can handle 4 bedrooms, a second kitchen, what's Goffstown rules, what are the state rules? Any flexibility in any of those? Anything else that we need to ask of anybody? in the next
Megan
meeting?
has one.
Megan?
I was just thinking, besides asking, like, say, Mike Yargo, should we have them ask their septic designer to respond to those, so we get his side of
Sure.
it? You know what I mean, so then we can compare what Mike says and what their septic designer says, and hopefully things will match up, you know?
That'd be great.
I'm curious what their designer would say about, about that and the impacts. I think it'd be helpful to have 2 opinions on it.
Are you willing to do that?
Sure.
Have comments from your septic person?
The person who designed our septic is the state septic designer.
Okay, great. All right, so that's my motion, to continue this meeting to the.
I'll second.
Okay, any comments or further discussion? All right, so, sorry, Vivian, you're not voting on this aspect of it?
I'm not.
All those in favor to move this application to the February 7th meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
sorry,
very
it's
much.
taking lots of time.
Sorry
No,
you have to
that's-
come back again.
Oh, that's okay, we appreciate your time.
You want me to kick off, Brian? You wanna hold this in there?
Oh, February 7th? Okay, so we are going to move to the next application. Get my stuff here together. Okay, so we're on to the second item. This is Wayne Peralt of 14 Spring Street. Applicant is seeking an appeal from an administrative decision of the Planning and Zoning Administrator's determination in regards to driveway modifications allowed with a driveway modification permit for property owned by Tristram and Marcella Gordon of 13 Spring Street, map 38, lot 109, in the residential 1 zone. This concerns sections 7.1.2, 7.3.4, 7.3.5, 7.4.2, and 14.81 of the zoning ordinance. This was continued from the December 6, 2011 meeting. So at that meeting, we ended this application to, I believe, we reopened the public hearing, correct? We had closed it? I don't-
Yes. Reopened.
Yes, we reopened it, and for consideration to talk with probably somebody from the town regarding DPW and things like that. Okay, and I see we have an email from Megan.
We have the applicant.
Oh, she's not the applicant.
Oh.
Ma'am, can we have you
Oh.
sit back right now?
Okay.
We're not at your level, yet.
I think she is. She is.
No,
Oh, no.
Wayne's the
Wayne's
applicant.
applicant, yeah.
Yep, yep,
Oh,
she's the
That's
property of
sorry.
concern. Oh, I love your enthusiasm. So I haven't yet had a chance to read the email from Megan. Can we have Megan speak to it, I guess?
Sure, Megan, and you're the author of it.
Kathy, what was I guess you had a question for Megan.
My whole question is that in the discussions that we had at the last meeting, it was he said, she said, this was being done because specifically there were drainage issues that were exposed while DPW was there. And what I had requested was that we contact DPW, get a real feel for what was going on there, so we could address what Mr. Peralt was seeking, and have written, like a written summation, documentation as to what had transpired, why Mr. Gordon and Mrs. Gordon were in the position that they were. And at that point, we had agreed to reopen to
Correct.
continue. And based upon that, I contacted DPW on Friday. Megan was on vacation, and was able to speak with her this morning. I had also spoken to another member of DPW who had accompanied Megan. I think she referenced that in her email. Mike Walton had also, and I had spoken to Mike Walton on Friday in lieu of Megan's absence to see what he could recollect about the situation. And I was pleased that Megan contacted me first thing this morning. As you can see, at 10:50 this morning, she had emailed this, what I would consider to be quite a lengthy summation of what transpired on Spring Street and why there was a recommendation. It also brought to point that there was some confusion as to what was actually the date of the permit. And it leads you to somewhat think that perhaps it didn't necessarily expire. So I was very, very pleased with this email, the detail, the descriptions, the reasons why. And I'm very satisfied to make a motion at this point if anyone has nothing further to say.
I might have a couple questions, but the point you're making is that, based on the email from Megan, where the applicant believed that the permit, the one-year permit expired on the 10th of August of 2011 because they believed it was issued on the 10th of August in 2010.
Right.
Whereas Megan actually said that it was permit was
September 9th.
September 9th of 2010. And the DPW extended the original permit in August of 2011 for additional year, correct?
Correct.
So that there was no lapse in permit.
I don't see that, and I also do see that there are some very, very unusual drainage issues with your property, which obviously, based upon Megan's instructions, was to let's sit back and wait and see to make sure you don't have to redo new parts of your driveway. And this definitely substantiates the situation. It justifies as far as I'm concerned, it certainly justifies if there was a lapse, that this permit should be still in effect.
Okay.
That's my honest
Okay.
statement about what we have in front of us tonight.
All right, I have a couple questions. I'm just going to ask if the board has any other questions of Gail and Joanne. We're not here at the last meeting to ask about this. Do you have any questions?
I just need some clarification. Is his appeal due to the fact that he's saying that the permit expired, or that it should not have been issued in the first place, that there shouldn't be a driveway there?
Both.
There's a number of issues. He has a lot of issues. Specifically, he is appealing the letter that Brian wrote in September, I believe September 7th or so, to the Gordons, outlining 5 different things or so that they talked about. One, let's pull up that, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
September 21st is the letter.
Okay? Shouldn't go off memory, should I? All right. September 21st, which is in our original packet, the big stapled package. Joanne, you probably should
I
have.
don't have that with
You don't
me.
have that?
That was from the last meeting.
The last meeting.
So the 5, or the areas that were essentially the determinations that were made in that letter by Brian to the Gordons, was the first one. It was his determination that the driveway permit may be extended by the Department of Public Works if it is their determination to do so. Because Ms. Perrell was saying they extended after it was expired, they don't have the authority to do that. Sure.
Oh, she's got one.
Okay. It's probably like 10 pages into that document.
Yeah, page 2 of 6, second paragraph. 2 of 6 of the letter.
Yeah, there's a letter from Brian in there.
No, that's right, I'm all set. I can listen.
It's right after Wayne Crow's first initial letter
there.
of
So it's a 6-page letter, and Brian took the opportunity to bold the areas that, that his determinations were. So on page 2 of 6, the first one, he speaks to that it's the DPW's right to extend a permit. The next paragraph down talks about that the driver entrance at the right-of-way is limited to 22 feet. However, beyond that, it can be 28 feet. The next page, where Mr. Pearl's saying that it's limited to 20 feet, including the 5-foot flares, which then would be a 12-foot driveway. The third one is that the property owner, by doing the construction on the northerly driveway, makes that the conforming driveway, then the southerly driveway is the non-conforming driveway. So I guess those are the three. Those are the determinations. Is that correct, Brian? Is there any other determinations?
I mean, on the fourth page, I made the determination that they should not be parking in that grassy area from this time forward, from the date of the letter. I think that was maybe the last one.
Okay.
I have a question. If we find that this permit has not expired, and that the DPW had verbally extended it within the time frame, then I don't believe we need to go through all of this again, because it still is in effect.
A new determination that wasn't discussed in December, I believe, is when the ZBA dealt with this issue before, is that correct? December. We never really got down to the details of the driveway width.
Nor to the issue of the grandfathering of the one but
Right.
not the other.
That's right. Because we actually asked that question of Derek at the time, okay, so we have two driveways, which one is the grandfathered one, and which one is not?
But how can we bring new things into a driveway permit that's already been issued? We can't start to, if the driveway, I can understand if the driveway permit had expired, that we would now entertain new additional information. But if the driveway permit hasn't expired, the new information is irrelevant to me, because the permit is still in effect. And we permitted it based upon what was decided before.
The 28-foot, there's still a disagreement on the 28-foot, because I'm just saying, how, in
I
Mr.
understand
Pearl,
that.
the applicant's mind, is that we stated specifically, or I should say, Brian stated specifically that the Gordons could make a driveway that was 28 feet wide, past the edge of the
Right-of-way.
right-of-way. He disagreed with that. So that is a determination we can either agree or disagree with Brian on, because it was not part of the previous ruling. It's an interpretation of the zoning ordinance that's different than, frankly, what Derek had
My intent
determined.
in writing this entire letter was to clear up several points that just were not clear from back when Derek had been dealing with it. And I'm just trying to get to a point where there's nothing more to argue on this point. And I felt like those were points that were available and left open for argument. And so I wanted to make sure that they were cleared up for
Okay.
the applicant, for the applicant's benefit.
Joanne, did you have any other questions?
No.
Well, I do, I just wondered how the DPW was allowed to extend the permit for another year without going before the ZBA to ask, like, we just got a client right now asking for an extension for his building.
Because the ZBA did not issue that original permit for the driveway.
But we gave the variance for it.
We gave a variance to call it a driveway. It's, as I understand, it's the DPW's right to issue driveway permits that comply with the zoning ordinance and the development regulations, that it's they issue the permits and extend them as necessary.
And I don't remember, I don't think it was even a variance to call it a driveway. I think it was just you upheld Derek's determination.
Correct.
Right.
That's what it was.
It wasn't a variance, you're right. It was
It was
So,
an administrative
These are
determination.
administrative decisions that, have been appealed to you, and you're making a decision whether or not to uphold them or not. But in the case of the driveway permit from the previous, the extension of this special exception and the 2-year thing,
right.
that's an approval that the ZBA previously granted. and
Correct.
So it's your right to extend it or to not extend it. Whereas a driveway permit, since it's DPW who issues that permit, it's my determination that it's their right to extend it or to not extend it.
That was your first
Right.
determination that was appealed. Anything else, Vivian? Yeah? I have hopefully 2 quick questions. Was the 28-foot decision versus what was thought of before a surprise to DPW, that it could be 28-foot? Because I saw in previous email correspondence that they were using other than 28 feet in their discussion.
When I spoke to Megan about it, she said that she had not been interpreting the zoning ordinance in that regard. They had been following, the paragraph itself is somewhat confusing because it starts off talking about, parking areas
right.
and connecting driveways and that sort of thing. But my interpretation was that because the heading of that paragraph was, I don't even recall the heading of the paragraph. It was
widths.
driveway widths, yes.
That's it.
I understood it to be any driveway widths are, counted under this rule. And there was a separate sentence in there that talked about connecting driveways, but overall, that still fit under that driveway width category, and it didn't necessarily split it out in a separate, okay, this is for commercial parking lots and this is for residential driveways. It's all just under that one paragraph.
Right.
And so to me, I interpreted it as that being the rule.
But that'll be a new normal then for Goffstown? Whatever was used before as 24 is the maximum, or the 20 was the maximum, that 28 will now be the new normal? Megan?
Well, I was just gonna say, 22 is what's in the development regulations, and that's what I use on all the permits. As Brian said, I was not using the 734, because at least up until that point, my opinion was the main, category 7.3 was parking area design standards, that's under, and I didn't think that applied. To me, those rules applied to parking areas. So it was just that I had a different interpretation of it, but obviously, when the question is asked, Brian's the one who makes that final decision, so knowing that now, unfortunately, we have conflicting rules, so development regs say 22 and the zoning say 28.
We'll have to
That's
get that
something we're trying to
fixed.
resolve for next year, so that both of them can say, what, 25 did we pick?
So
I-
doesn't the more restrictive
We're trying to,
apply? Isn't it saying here that the more restrictive applies?
there's 2 different
Well-
things. You've got the 22-foot rule is to the right-of-way line.
To the right-of-way only.
The 28-foot rule that Brian's referencing that I never applied before is in regards to the
Ex-
front setback.
Extends beyond that.
So really, in my opinion, before this issue had come up, to me, driveways could be 22 feet to a right-of-way line, and then after that point, they could flare out to any width.
You didn't have a
There was no
minimum at that
restriction
point.
beyond that, in my opinion, until Brian made this determination. Now, obviously, we need to make sure it goes to 28, but it doesn't really make sense to, we wanna fix that rule, cause to be 22, then 28, and then as wide as you want, seems silly, so we wanna correct that if we can in the next round of, you know, zoning and planning, ordinance updates.
Okay.
We'll try and correct
So
that.
that is I think, a worthwhile point he made to clarify that. And the other one was it necessary, or let me ask, did the Gordons ask you to say that the north driveway become the conforming driveway?
They did not.
Was there a reason that you chose that would become the conforming driveway?
I made that determination because I felt that the question of grandfathering was still an issue that was out there that had remained from back in the previous time when the ZBA had discussed this. And to me, it was a determination that, you know, you can't really determine which driveway is conforming or non-conforming when you have two existing driveways where only one is required or allowed. And so, to me, I felt that it would be most appropriate to determine that this one is, the northern driveway is now the conforming driveway, because that's the one that they've expanded
Right.
up to the maximum width that they can possibly expand it to. And that the other one, that hasn't been expanded at all, would then be determined as a non-conforming driveway and could not be expanded further.
Okay.
So, that was merely to try to clear up that issue that had been unresolved, I think, in the past.
As we know, the applicant wasn't, as he provided us information on the 29th that he was not gonna be able to be here tonight. He provided us a 4-page, a 5-page letter, that talked about his case, what he believes was going on at that property. Some of it was relevant, most of it was relevant to this application, other was just about the situation in general. Any comments or questions? Because he wanted that to be part of the record, which it will be part of the minutes and of the record.
I'd like you to explain to me what you're doing over here. Right here. What's going on here? That's where that driveway is, correct? That's the grandfather driveway that went back to this lot.
Yep.
What's all this?
That is a drawing that Megan.
Yeah.
But-
I don't think so it goes like that because it goes straight.
This was,
What's
this,
this?
yeah, well,
What's
this
this?
was the
What's this?
drawing that was part of the Spring Street drawings.
Yeah.
So this is before, there's been changes since these drawings. But back when we did the Spring Street, design, when this all first came up, you know, it used to be a straight-in driveway,
Right.
and this expansion was made, and that's when all these issues started coming up. Since then, I believe some of this area has
fixed
been
it.
removed because of Brian's letters. So, let's say the driveway, I think comes in like this to a certain point, maybe the 25 feet.
It just goes straight back.
It goes straight back, and I don't even know if they have, does it still go over a little bit, or was that
No.
all removed?
That was
A
all removed.
landscape berm was put back in here, because the issue was
Okay.
that, the issue early on was
Yeah.
that people were driving in this spot too. So we had asked for a landscape berm, and then Brian made his determination, and then some of this was removed, so now I believe it just
It goes straight back, but it
Goes
does
straight.
widen out towards the house.
Okay.
And the reason I bring it up, Tristan, is because when he came in here with the administrative decision, Wayne was all over the fact that he thought that you were gonna make that bigger there. And then you said, no, we just wanna park a car there. And now I'm seeing exactly what Wayne Peralt was saying he was
That's-
complaining about, was you were gonna expand that.
That's
And
the
that's a
old, that's the old
concern.
data.
Yeah,
This-
okay.
Yeah, it's a
survey was
tree
done
right
when-
there.
That's a
We
little
moved the
concerning to
tree.
me.
It's right there.
Yeah.
This is all gone now, this.
Are the current
Okay.
dimensions wider than
That's why I
28
asked what's
feet
going
now
on.
in the extended area?
No.
Will
No,
they go wider than 28 feet? How deep do they go currently?
I think it probably goes about the same distance, 28, 30 feet.
It goes to the back of the house,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit past the back of the house,
yeah,
right?
but I think
No, it
the
doesn't
tank,
go quite to the back of the house, because, I got a tank,
a
like along
tank
the
and
back.
a big tree, the pine.
Originally, what I wanted to do was be able to pull in my driveway and park this way, so that you could back up and drive out instead of having to back out of onto the road constantly. And that's where I got,
That's where you got that.
that's when I had that, and
That's no longer part of the equation.
now I had the excavation company come back in and fill that in and put a big berm, and it's loam seeded, there's a tree there now, and it's just a straight back driveway.
I've seen the tree.
So it's 28, so at the apron and the right-of-way, it's no more than 22.
No more than 22, yeah.
It widens to 28 once you're past
Yeah,
the right-of-way, and it goes back,
it goes straight back, yeah.
straight back, how far?
I haven't measured it, but,
Does it go to the back of the house?
not quite to the back of the house, no.
I don't think there's.
More
any-
than 28 feet, though.
Probably, yeah, cause I think the end of my house is 20.
The length of the driveway isn't a
This is
concern though,
what it looks
The
like.
length isn't the concern, it's just the width.
just the width.
Because you said it widened as it got closer to the house.
That's the tree.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try even narrow it further. So there's a lot of issues
ahead.
that have been raised by the applicant,
Yeah.
a lot of history, a lot of things that Brian is dealing with. What we're specifically trying to do here is either saying he's okay or not okay with this administrative
Right.
decision. And the length of the driveway is not a concern.
Right.
It's really just that 28 feet, the north driveway versus the south driver is the conforming.
And that
So,
green
yeah.
line, I believe that green line is the drainage that goes right by, see, that that
Goes
green line
right
that goes right
inside
through
the
his
house.
property
Yeah.
is drainage that comes down from the top of that road. So you can understand why
Mhm.
paving a driveway or going any further was a concern.
Sure.
Because he could possibly have to redo 2 driveways.
Right.
Yeah, there are a lot of drainage issues up in that area, that we were trying to resolve as best we could with the design. And, in my email, I stated that I had done an inspection with Mike Walton on, I think it was May 31st. Luckily, I had it in my calendar. And so I just did a quick search and found it, and that was the date of our inspection. And, during that meeting, you know, where I went inside the house, and I know Trish was there, and I believe his wife was there too, they had let me in. And, we went downstairs, and that's when we talked about the project and what we're doing, what we're, you know, trying to accomplish, and the issue with the driveway, you know, came up. And I said, don't finish any of that work over there, you know, don't pave your driveway apron, because I believe that came up. And I said, there's no need to do that, because we're gonna be tearing up the whole road, and when we do road reclamation projects, we usually get into everybody's driveways, typically 5 to 10 feet or so, you know, and, I didn't want them paving an apron that we were gonna be tearing up,
I saw that the
you know,
town
later
had
that summer.
done all that. I saw when I
Yeah.
drove through it. There's all the pavement onto the driveways, yeah.
Yeah, so, so I had said that during that meeting when I was there, but I had neglected to like go back, pull out the permit, make a note of it. And, I didn't make the note until Wayne had brought it to my attention that it may, you know, may have expired. And so I wrote the note, that we had extended it. And it was just today, when Kathy asked me to write this up, that I had the permit in front of me. And, I was just reading my own note that I had extended it until August 10th. And I was writing that, it was approved by DPW on the 9th of September. So I thought to myself, well, if it was only approved on the 9th, don't they have a year from the 9th? So I guess that was just kind of it was kind of an afterthought that I thought of today when I was writing up that summary, that was it in fact even, I don't think it was void, you know, on the 22nd. I guess I don't think it was void for 2 reasons. One, because I verbally said that it was extended and it, you know, the town had an ongoing project that affected what they were doing. But then, if we're looking at what notes I wrote, the note I wrote, I believe would fall within the 1-year timeframe. But I guess that's up to you guys.
And you
to
can
decide
see
that.
that the applicant, when they said, they referenced the driveway permit, where it says, failure to adhere to the standards and engineering drawings previously submitted and failure to complete construction of said facility within 1 calendar year of the date of this permit shall render this permit null and void. And so that sentence does not reference the date that's at the top of this application. It's only at the date of the approval is what it references. What that specific sentence references is the date at the top or the approval date. That's an interpretation.
The date, I mean, the date at the top is the day we get it. When it comes in, Kathy fills out the form for us, and she puts it in either my box or Alex's box to go out and inspect.
Okay.
So the date at the top is simply the date it came into us. That's a date to know that typically we have 7 to 10 days, you know, so they, for instance, an applicant could say, hey, I'm at my 10 days, have you made a decision yet? In that case, it went almost a month, and that was because we were waiting for a determination from, I
From
think, Derek at the time.
Right.
Derek had said, don't do it, because at first we thought they needed a conditional use permit, so Derek said, don't issue a permit yet, they may need a conditional use, but then that all changed, and once we heard from Derek and had that letter of, I think, September 7th, when Derek said they only need a modification, they don't need a conditional use, then 2 days later, we issued the permit.
So the normal
Normally, there
process,
would only be 7 to 10 days between the top date and the date signed below, but in this case, it was a month.
so if it, in other similar cases, the normal is that you only have that date at the top as tracking when you got the application, is not when the expiration of the permit is.
That would be my interpretation. I've never been asked that before till this point, but to me, we didn't approve them for, well, in this case, we didn't approve it until the 9th.
Okay.
This is also slightly different in the sense that the work had started before. You know, when I issue a permit, usually the work hadn't started. This is kind of an after-the-fact permit, you know, which, that happens. It happens from time to time.
And is it within your authority to determine whether or not you will issue an application if work has already started, if they don't get a dig safe number, which is part of, what are the issues?
Yeah, we
that-
don't issue the permit until we have all the things we need to have, which is, yeah, the dig safe and all those kind of things, so.
That's a determination you make, it's a DPW, it's not a zoning ordinance issue that you're aware of, it's a DPW rules and
We do
procedures.
that all internally at DPW, so.
Another issue that Wayne had brought up in his letter was the issue of the width of 22 feet versus like 12 feet plus the flares.
Oh, yeah.
That's, and Megan kind of drew a little diagram up there.
Yeah, you can't really see it very
But basically, that's kind of a determination of, along that line of the right-of-way line, you know, what's the width of the driveway? And our regs say 22 feet. And whether it's including flares or not, it can't be, you know, 12 feet, and it's gotta be that 22 feet, so.
That's the
Because
max,
it's
though.
along that one point of a line, the issue of flares or not flares shouldn't come into play. It should not make a difference, because, I mean, if you look at that line, she's got it at 22 feet still with the flare, or she's got it at 22 feet with it coming straight out.
You can either have a
So-
driveway that's square to the road, or you can flare into a driveway.
That second drawing is the applicant's, Mr. Thoreau's interpretation.
I think, yeah, he
His
was thinking they
interpretation
were
is that.
limited to 12, Brian said, and
He wants it to be limited to the 12 with the flare,
Correct.
and that's his proposal, that it be changed to that, but
I mean, most people, all
I
the
don't think that
houses
the
they're
town
building.
could drop that and make them do it at that lower width, because of our regulation states that it's 22 feet at the right-of-way line.
The reason the including flares language is even in the development regulations is because when I had first come here, we were having an issue with people saying 22 plus their flares, which you end up having a 32-foot curb cut at the road. And we didn't want curb cuts that wide for just a driveway to a residential lot. So we added language during one revision some year, that it was 22 feet including the flares, meaning you can go straight in or you can flare and come up to a skinnier driveway, but 22 is your max curb cut.
Okay. It could be a point of confusion where Mr. Thoreau was, because that pencil annotation was made to the application, where it used to say max driveway width equals 22 feet with 5-foot flares, then it was crossed out to say including.
Because again, people were misinterpreting the width, so we've been crossing out writing including. I don't know if we've actually changed our permit form, but, you know, to me, I knew what with the flares, meaning 22 feet, including the flares, but including is probably a better word than width, so.
Okay. But your concern is at the property line, 22 feet curb cut, period.
Yeah, at the roadway and to that property line, yeah.
Okay. All right, I think we beat that one. Any last questions of anyone?
I just want one question for the record, Brian. Given the new information that came in over the weekend or the end of last week from the applicant, does any of that information change your opinions at all, or your determination?
No. I read through his letter, and I didn't see anything that would make me want to change my determination.
Okay. Last questions, comments, before we close the public hearing? Do you have anything that we haven't heard before?
No, I just wanna ask a question.
Okay?
To finish this driveway and to get it signed off so it's 100% done so that we never have to visit this again, what is needed from me?
I can never say never. So
I know.
we-
I wanna
What
just-
we'll do is we'll make a determination which can be appealed. So,
Right.
it's a 30-day appeal period. If it's appealed, we'll have to consider it, and then, so it could be finished at our level in 30 days. It can always be appealed to the next level, to Superior Court, which takes time. And at that point, it's, I don't know, risk,
I
whether you go
guess-
forward or not. So,
To ask that question, what does the town want from me to do so that the town is satisfied and sign off on my permit?
so I'm not gonna answer that question, I don't think.
I was like, Megan is the one that.
Well, and
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you that question, because we would have signed off on this already. Now that we finished the road project and we've paved an apron into the property, you know what I mean, to us,
Yeah.
it's done. But I didn't sign off on this because there was a question on whether or not the permit was null and void, so I didn't finalize it.
But does the paving is the paving part of that permitted, project? Cause they're still gonna be paving.
They're
it.
supposed to pave to the property line, and, I'll have to look up that. I'm pretty sure we already have done that, because
Yeah,
this
you
right of way
have.
is so tight.
Yeah,
You're
you're
paved.
you're
Yeah.
paved.
The right of way is so tight here that really the back of where the old sidewalk is, that was the right of way line. And I know we went into that point, it's only like 3-4 feet, so.
It looks to be paved up to onto your driveway, correct?
Yeah, it's paved probably, you guys probably did like 12 feet in.
Yeah, I mean, it really, the aprons vary from lot to lot depending on the disturbance the project created to
Right.
those lots. And for blending, because we raise the elevation of the road, we lower it in some spots, so you've gotta blend driveways in. So some people's driveways go back much further than others because we had to do a different type of blending. You know, if someone's at the same elevation the road used to be, you can do a quick blend. But if the road elevation changed, you have to blend in a little bit further.
Makes sense.
And right there was some grade changes, because I know on Mr. Pearl's property, we had to go in a little ways to try and make a better transition. So I mean, there were other properties downhill that were like that too, that we had to go in, so.
Okay.
Are we still on a wait-and-see basis, is waiting to see how it's going to drain in the springtime? Or are you comfortable with the storm we
Driveway
had
was-
in October?
I don't think I mean, driveway wise, I think we're done with drainage. I mean, we tried to handle
So
it
that
out the
drainage-
road as much as we could. There were issues, the water was coming from 2 spots.
Yeah.
I had originally thought it was really just here. And, we've provided a stub, and this property owner connected in, so that was a huge source of water. But then during the whole construction, there was continuous water coming out right here too. And we ended up having to cut the berm and reestablish the swale that used to be there to let the water come out here. There's just significant water behind all these homes back here. So we cut the berm, and I believe, I don't know how many, maybe a month ago now, the pavers came back and they kind of tried to pave in a little swale right into there to catch that water. And the goal is, because what was happening is without that, the water was coming behind the curb and going across the driveway and washing out all down here. So I believe that has been resolved. I hope now that we've
Yeah,
fixed that.
what I'm gonna do in the spring is probably do like a curtain drain on the northerly side of my driveway
Okay.
and hook into the drain that I have and hopefully cut the water off at that point before it gets to my foundation.
I mean, all of these properties, we have provided drainage stubs to several properties because they have such significant water in their basements. And this property uniquely has a pipe that runs full of water through its basement. And so we don't even know where the source of the pipe is. It's just, it comes somewhere up here and it runs through his property. It's been there for quite a long time. And what he's talking about is he'd like to try and put a drain here to intercept it so the water isn't running through this old pipe in his basement. And we had provided him a drainage stub, so if he could connect to that stub, then the water will go right to the main drainage system and it won't be running through his house and then into our system down below.
Okay.
So it all goes to our system anyway, it just runs through his house first.
And that's kinda why we procrastinated on the driveway a little bit to find out where all that stuff was gonna be, so I
Yeah.
can, and then,
I mean, unfortunately, we can't pick up every drop of water on his property, and we've talked about that, we've tried to do this, but he's still gonna get water from back there. So that's why doing an additional foundation drain, might help his own problem in his basement and stuff like that.
Okay.
What do they call that?
All right, any last questions? All right.
Are you're planning on paving your driveways?
Yeah, I got some more drainage to do first, but, yeah.
If he's planning on paving, then I won't sign off on this. Do you know what I mean? I guess, the thing is, if the plan was just to pave an apron and leave it gravel, then I'd sign off and be done. But if we know that he's gonna finish paving it, I can wait until that work is done and then sign it. It really doesn't matter to me. If you find that the extension is valid, he has until whatever we decide, either 8/10 or 9/9 of next year.
And the extension, or the signature indicates inspection?
There's two signatures. One is the initial to say you're good to go construct it, and the last signature under final approval is to say you're done and we're closing the book on this driveway permit.
All right, any last?
I'd rather if we just sign, if we do get the permit, just to sign off, and then I can pull a permit when I pave too, right?
I was just gonna say,
Can
I mean,
Can I do that?
to pave your driveway, to change your driveway from gravel to pavement, you need a modification permit.
Separate.
So he'd essentially be coming back for a second modification permit. The only negative to him is there's another fee. It's not like we can waive it when they come back a second time.
Right.
We don't have that authority to waive fees.
Okay.
And
I mean,
Which is-
that
which is fine.
I might also say, though, you might have additional issues if you leave it open. We have resolved the issues that are on the table before us now. If you sign off on it now before you do the asphalt, you're asking for a modification permit, which may create additional correspondence. So you might want to give thought to whether or not we do extend it, whether you will continue to work within the extension so that additional correspondence won't
Yeah, I guess I'll pave.
take up all your time.
I just wanted to see how good that drain works before I did something permanent,
Yeah.
but, yeah, we'll just pave it.
I mean, we have the spring to see how things work. Hopefully we'll have some good rain and see how things work over there and,
Great.
So all
or
that-
if they get their
How about some
drainage work
snow?
done in the spring,
Or we
then they
get
could
no
see how it
rain,
works.
ever.
So all that discussion is good, but it's outside what the question
Right.
was of the applicant.
Right.
So, with that, I'm closing the public hearing. Any motions?
I just have one comment. Mr. Chairman, you said that his letter was gonna become part of the record.
Yes.
In his letter, he does specifically point out statements that I allegedly made.
Yep, I hear you. It's just a statement.
Moot point.
Well, you can comment on it if you wish, but I
Okay,
recommend it's not necessary.
All right, it's not necessary. Yeah, I'd still like to rebut
Okay?
a couple of statements where he said that Mr. Lupi would have voted for it to be null and void if I had waited. There was no discussion on whether I was voting on anything, and I made no statement that I was gonna vote whether a permit was null and void. Secondly, he stated that I said DPW messed up. I never said DPW messed up. All that DPW was working to resolve some problems, and that working through those problems obviously extended the scope of the job time limit. And so therefore, there should have been some relief to the Gordons. And I guess there was one, well, maybe that was it. I thought there were 3 comments that he alluded to, but that may be it. Anyway, I'd just like to make it part of the record also, that
Okay.
Mr. Pro's comments about what I said, yeah, we're taken way out of context.
In
And
in the minutes to that meeting last month, was it transcribed correctly according to what you said?
it was transcribed correctly, and it was, his interpretations are putting words in my mouth, obviously.
Okay. Any motions?
Other than that,
I make a motion, this is kind of difficult, but I make a motion that we extend the driveway permit However, no,
Can't do that.
oh, well,
Just uphold the.
uphold the administrative
Yes.
decision?
So that's
I
all
make
it's
a,
about.
I make a, that's my motion, that I uphold the administrative decision that was made.
Okay.
And I'll second.
Gail, second.
Gail, second.
Any discussion, comments? So the motion is to approve and uphold the administrative decisions as indicated in the letter from Brian. Any discussion he had on it tonight? Any discussion?
I just want, for the record, I just want it to be said that I do not feel that the driveway permit expired.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition or abstentions? All right, thank you. All right, so the next thing on the agenda,
Oh, your email? Yes.
everybody good to proceed to the next one?
Yes, but I have to recuse myself
Okay.
from this.
So Kathy Newton's recusing herself as because you were an abutter, is that correct?
Yeah, 'cause I'm on.
Abutter to the, oh,
The Woodland Trust.
yeah, so Vivian, if you can be a voting member on this application?
Okay.
Excited about that? That's why we have alternates.
There you go.
So this is James E. M. Coughlin Jr., trustee of Woodland Trust applicant, is seeking a 2-year time extension for a special exception previously approved on February 2nd, 2010, to allow multifamily housing on a lot in a residential 1 district. The project consists of subdividing the existing 68.23 acre lot into 2 lots and constructing 76 attached single-family townhome units on a 37.11 acre lot with frontage on Bog Road. Section 3.11.a.3 of the zoning ordinance, Table of Principal Uses, lists multifamily as a use permitted by special exception. The property is located off Mountain Road and Bog Road, map 4, lot 87-6, in a residential 1 district. Lassard Woods is the owner of the property. Special exceptions expire after 2 years from the date of approval if active and substantial development has not been accomplished. We have staff review on this application. It states, with analysis on the reverse, because of the project's proximity to town borders and transportation networks, this project has the potential for regional impact. I recommend the board make the determination the proposed development does have regional impact as defined by RSA 36:55 or the guidelines set forth by Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. If the board determines this is a project of regional impact, the public hearing cannot be conducted until affected communities and the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission are notified of the project. The public hearing should be continued to February 7th, 2012 to allow for notification. Further staff review. Let's see. Just to let you know where things are, the Goffstown Planning Board conditionally approved the 2-lot subdivision in February of 2009. The Planning Board notice of decision is included in the applicant's package. All state permits are valid and current. The extension has been requested due to the economy. They have been able to obtain the necessary financing from the lending source to construct the project. And then last, the Goffstown Planning Board, without making any finding relative to the ZBA's consideration to grant or deny a special exception, conditionally approved it in September of 2009. Since then, the developer has kept up their approval with time extensions through the Planning Board. The most recent extension was granted in August 11th, 2011. We received, the application was forwarded to the Planning Board on the 27th of December, this application for review and comment on the January 13th meeting, which is upcoming. And it was not forwarded to the Conservation Commission because it was not required. So, with that stated, first thing we normally do is determine regional impact of this application. Any comments and motions? I'm gonna quick ask the question. I believe we determined this application 2009 had a regional impact, is that correct?
I think so.
Yes.
Did the surrounding communities have any comment?
Mr. Coughlin, I think, got correspondence from them that they didn't, or I think I think the town had gotten correspondence from them that they didn't. I didn't have that correspondence to copy you or anything, but, it was my determination that because the board had determined previously that this was of regional impact, that, that should just go forward as my recommendation again to you.
Can you
Based on the two, criteria on the back, because they have close proximity to borders of neighboring community, and because it may affect transportation networks.
And the neighboring community in this case is New Boston. Is that mostly your consideration, New Boston?
Yeah.
And the transportation networks is it both Mass Road 114 and 13 that you're, or what are the transportation network considerations that you're thinking of?
I think just the impacts to incoming traffic into Goffstown, you know, because Bog Road connects right into downtown Goffstown and then onto 114. And then also it's definitely within close proximity to the 13, so both of those two routes could be affected by the additional, I think it's 76 units, is that right? 76 units of traffic would put a significant impact to those two roads.
Okay. Any comments, motions?
I'll make a motion to find that it has regional impact.
Second it.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of saying that this application has regional impact, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed or abstained? None?
No, I'm not, it's okay, Kevin.
That's all right, it's just people had questions.
I learned a lot tonight. Your job is not that easy with some of these cases, I can tell you.
It's why we do it, though. It's challenging, it's fun. Any other questions on this
I just have some
application?
questions. Is anything gonna expire between now and next month when regional, impact is addressed? Or when we, well,
Besides the ZBA, special exception, you mean?
right, is anything gonna expire that we,
Well, that shouldn't expire before the meeting.
So,
before the,
It
before next
expires next month, but it doesn't expire before the meeting.
Well, it does, it's February 3rd or 2nd.
Right. So it was
February 2nd,
approved on February
2000.
2nd, 2010, which is a very good
5
point.
days.
Ah,
I actually circled that on here to bring that up. So by us acting on this, to say we're extending it, we are knowingly extending it past the 2-year deadline, and that, but we're working on the application. So
So we
we are
can-
not gonna hold it against, the assumption is we're not holding it against the applicant that his permit's been expired, or their special exception is
I would
expired.
suggest making a formal motion just to
Okay.
keep it on the record.
I will make a motion.
And I'll second.
And recognizing that the expiration of the special exception will occur between this and the next meeting, that they are not losing their special exception because of the board's actions in this case.
I'll second that.
All right?
And it's not an automatic extension.
So with that
Just
second,
extension till the next meeting.
yes, and then we will extend it to the next meeting, which is, again, is February 7th of 2012. And
Or until a formal action is taken on this application.
that seems very reasonable. So the special exception will not expire until formal action is taken by this board on this specific application in front of us.
Sounds good to me.
First, second?
He seconded. We'll let him
Seconded
second.
it. You seconded?
Yeah.
All right, with Ed's second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's it. All right.
My apologies, I was reading the planning board.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I did see the previous exception of ours dated February 2nd.
Whether for you, for renewal, you can apply sooner than 90 days, but you can't apply less than 30 days.
Okay.
Can't do it now because it's gonna be within 90 days, but not under 30 days. Any of them, alteration.
Mr. Coughlin, why I didn't hear you first was the possibility that we said regional impact was no, and we would have just heard it all, and it would have taken it could have taken a long time. I wasn't comfortable going out of order, not knowing it would be quick.
NCIS is on demand, it's all right.
The
Iowa
caucus
caucus.
is tonight.
I'm kidding.
The Ohio caucus.
So, As Kathy Hooton has rejoined the board.
I have.
All right, so I don't see anything else on the agenda, Brian. Was there no correspondence?
The only correspondence was the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. We have nothing else.
All right, anything else from the board? Any motions for this,
No,
adjournment?
but I wanna tell you, can I let them know about the petition?
Hmm?
Or is that still, is that public knowledge,
What's that?
the petition?
I know it was sent by the town of Goffstown. It was sent to a neighbor, one of the neighbors through the town of Goffstown, petition by the neighbors to commercialize in Penadville.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
John
I've
Heichel?
heard about
Yeah,
that.
that's
Yeah,
the
I just
petition
thought
that
I'd
the
bring it
town's
up to you because
received.
it is a zoning issue. And there's quite a piece of property. Vivian, why don't you say what it?
It's a piece of property, and I don't know if you've got the petition, but it shows that from 114 to 114A going towards Penadville, on the left-hand side starts the petition where Danish Park is, almost all the way to Moose Club Park.
No, I think I've read about this, yeah.
Commercial property, and then across the street, there's a small little village area across the street, dead-end street, where they put that for commercialized too.
And there's all homes there now, right?
They're all
Those
homes.
homes there.
Yeah, they're all little
Oh.
homes, yeah.
The planning board will be hearing that next week at the planning
Yeah.
board.
January 12th, they
Yeah.
So
January
the
12th.
neighbors, that would be a good time to listen to what the neighbors and the people down there
that's
who
7
live there
o'clock.
think.
January 12th at 7.
And I know although the ZBA does deal with zoning issues, zoning of land per se is merely a planning board
Yeah.
issue.
Okay.
It's not something that the zoning board would weigh in on.
Right.
It's
Generally,
public
we do it as
Generally.
an individual, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, notified.
All right, then.
Really?
Yeah.
That's it?
Anything else? Gail?
That's strange. If they were trying to rezone your property, you don't get notified that there's rezoning going on your personal
John
property?
Heichel, when he explained it to the planning board, correct me if I'm wrong, he said that the petition includes the particular lot numbers? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
But that doesn't
I mean
mean,
that they've been notified?
well, not only that, but that doesn't, a lot of people don't even know their lot numbers.
We
Right.
we sent a letter actually to
You
all the
did?
property owners
Oh,
in
okay.
question.
So they do know.
They didn't, I know these people didn't get a letter. Because they called me and they want to know, what's going on. Is the town taking over our property? I mean, they don't know
Now,
anything about
that-
zoning.
That's currently RSBOD
Yeah.
It's RSBO2, yeah.
two.
Yeah.
So you could have some type of business there now.
Yeah.
They're
the
just,
point
they
of it,
just
yeah.
wanna open it up to
More.
anything commercial.
And also there's, I think, which we're gonna see as a board maybe come before us, but right now in conservation is they're looking at possibly developing multifamilies behind Rite Aid.
Yeah.
And that's, I believe that was in front of the zoning board once before. So,
I read
I
about
think that's coming down the pike for us, just to give everybody kind of like a heads up.
All right, board, thanks for all coming out tonight. We had 3 things in front of us, we pushed 2 off. Is that success? I'm not sure.
Well, I think it's definitely not a rush to judgment.
Gail is a motion to adjourn. I second the motion to adjourn. Any comments? All those in favor of saying adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain?